How's it going, YouTube? Navysooner here. Today, we're going over a Vietnam War era favorite, the Huey.
Welcome to the rice fields, motherfucker!
This is the Vortex AMG UH-1 Gen 2 Huey. We're going to be going over this optic, doing a review, and comparing it to this, the Eotech EXPS 3-0. Now what makes this review better than the other reviews of this UH-1 is I wasn't given this. I paid for it myself. I didn't buy this and then make a video trying to explain away my purchase of this. I bought this solely for reviewing and getting it out to people. It's not biased because no one gave this to me. I purchased it myself. Now let's just get this out of the way. I don't believe in any of the Gen 1 videos or the Gen 2 videos why this optic is nicknamed the Huey. Well, some of y'all probably know and aren't dumb, but for those of you that don't know anything about history or aviation, during the Vietnam era, there was a helicopter from Bell known as the UH-1. The UH-1's nickname was the Huey, and that's why this is nicknamed the Huey. It is a UH-1, same as the helicopter. Now, the helicopter is still used by Marine Corps units, and when I was stationed in New Orleans, the flight line right next to ours, when I was working on F-18s, had UH-1 Hueys and UH-1 Cobras. They were newer versions with twin engines, but they were the same basic helicopters. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. G.I. Joe! What is the UH-1 Gen 2? Well, obviously, it's the updated version of the UH-1 Gen 1. For those of you that really don't know, it is a holographic sight. And that's the reason I am comparing it to this Eotech EXPS 3-0. Vortex's first attempt at a holographic sight, the Gen 1 of the UH-1, wasn't bad, but there were some things that they wanted to change and make better with it or take away from it, and that's what ultimately culminated in the making of the UH-1 Gen 2. One of the main things that was removed was the USB port. They had a USB port on the Gen 1 so you could use rechargeable batteries, CR123s, or whatever the rechargeable name is called for the CR123. Well, hardly anybody used that on the Gen 1, so they decided, let's take it out. And they probably made room for the electronics they needed for the night vision mode, which we'll talk about later. The battery life on this UH-1 is 1,500 hours. That is at the medium setting of 8. Now points go to the UH-1 when it comes to battery life, because the battery life of the Eotech EXPS 3-0 is advertised at 1,000 hours, when really you only get about 500 to 600 hours out of the medium setting. Both of these optics take CR123 batteries. The battery compartment on the Vortex is much easier to get open and closed. There is just a little tab here that you pull down and then you can twist it and it'll open right up. On the EXPS 3-0, you have to really get onto it. You need to use a screwdriver to be able to get that open. So if you're in the field and your battery fails, it's much easier to change this out than it is this one. There are 15 different brightness settings, which you can adjust right here, up and down obviously, and there is a night vision mode. Points go to the Eotech because on brightness settings you have 20 brightness settings for the Eotech. So it gives you a little bit more play in your brightness on the Eotech. Like I said before, the night vision mode is right here now. It's right between the plus and minus sign. There was no night vision mode on the UH-1 Gen 1. This one obviously added night vision. There are 4 different night vision brightness settings on here. Now, if you don't have nods or any goggles or any way to use night vision, it doesn't really matter, but you do have the option of having night vision. The night vision setting on the Eotech has 10 different settings, so you have a little bit more play on the Eotech as well. But one thing about the Eotech, if you get the 2-0, you don't have to worry about night vision if you don't have night vision goggles or nods or whatever. The Eotech has more options for you when it comes to night vision or not even needing night vision. Size of the UH-1 to the Eotech front to back is roughly the same, just about the same. I'm sure if I measured it, it would be just a little bit longer for the, it would be a little bit longer, just like centimeters for the UH-1 would be a little bit longer. I didn't measure it, not being scientific. It's front to back about the same. Obviously, there's a little difference here with the hood being further forward on the UH-1, and we'll get into that later. Even though the UH-1 and the Eotech are roughly the same size when it comes to front and back, the actual footprint on the mount is a little bit bigger. That is because where the battery compartment is on the Eotech makes it come up off of the rail, which takes up less space on the rail. This is not really a big deal unless you're running something like how I am here, which I have my Surefire pressure pad for my light so far back because I'm running a 10.5-inch barrel here. If I wanted to put the magnifier on here, I'll roll in some footage of it being on my other firearm with the magnifier and with this on there. If I needed to put the magnifier on here with the UH-1, I need to move the UH-1 forward a little bit. If I moved it forward enough for having the magnifier on there, it would be interfering with my cord for my Surefire pressure switch. The reason that it moves forward so much and it sits further away from the magnifier is because of where the crossbar is when it comes to locking it down to your rail. The crossbar under here is in a different place, making it to where it sits on your rail, obviously going to be different from the EXPS 3. Now, most of you won't have an issue with that or need an issue with that. It's just something that it's just an issue that came up with me because of the way that I have it set up on this gun here. The advertised weights for both of these, this is advertised at 11 ounces, this is advertised at 11.2 ounces. I mean, 0.2 ounces, you're gonna say, oh, well, I'm shaving off weight because I'm using this. Okay, nothing fancy. There aren't any real points going to either one of these because it's 0.2 ounces that this is less than this. The real points go to micro dot style red dot sights like Hollow Sun and Aimpoint. Those are much lighter. These are not for the people that want to save on weight. That's for damn sure. The lenses on the Vortex UH-1 Gen 2 are fully multi-coated. Vortex says this increases light transmission through the optic. It actually creates a bluish tint to the optic, which if you're using it in complete daylight, like bright daylight, it's not a big deal. I didn't even hardly notice it. Where I did notice it is when it was dark out, or getting dark out. There was less light transmitted through the optic and it made things darker. Others have reported that under night vision, the light transmission issue is hard to see through nods or a night vision optic that goes behind your red dot. When I'm under night vision, I'm shooting with a laser. I do not use my holographic sight, but if I needed to go to using it, this would be darker and people were having issues with that. The UH-1, just like the Eotech, has a QD mounting system with a lever just like the Eotech. Hey guys, if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. Also, I have Patreon and Subscribestar. I understand Patreon is going to be having some issues in the future, so it might be better if you go to Subscribestar, but I have no problem if you would like to donate to me on Patreon, but it would be awesome if you could donate so I could keep this channel running. It's very expensive and everything has come out of my pocket so far, except for over the last 4 months, I've gotten like $50 total from Patreon members. Oh well. Also, don't forget to go check out Life, Liberty, Pursuit of Happiness over on Instagram. Great products, great company, great owner. Go check them out on Instagram, and once they have a website, I will be linking that website in all my videos. Now to the reticle. The reticle on both of these optics are very, very similar. Now the circle on the Vortex, it is a 68 or 63, can't remember, didn't write it down. Sorry, not gonna go in, I'll just write something. It's a 63 or 68 MOA circle with a 1 MOA dot. Both of these have that. This one, on the other hand, it has breaks in the circle, and there's a little chevron down at the bottom of the reticle, which is your 10 yards and in CQB point of aim. Now with the Eotech, you just use the little notch that's at the bottom of the circle. They're basically the same reticle, and points go to either one based on what the reticle is and is supposed to look like. Now to me, with my eyes, the Eotech is a little bit more crisp. Now I know people out there are going to say, oh, well, when I look through holographic sights, it's all blurry. Well, you're looking through the sight fucking wrong. What you do is you look at your target and you put your reticle over your target. You don't look at your reticle, you look at your target and you bring your reticle through the target. Then it will be very crisp. But to me, the Eotech is a little bit more crisp than the Vortex. Also, when you have a magnifier behind either of these optics, the 1 MOA dot stays the same size. It's still 1 MOA. That makes it much easier to make more precise shots at longer distances. Both reticles are very fast, and I like using both of them. Just the donut to death thing, very fast. And if you're within a certain distance, as long as you get that donut onto somebody, you pull the trigger, it's hitting the target. Earlier, I was speaking about the controls on these optics. Now, the Eotech is on the side, and I showed you before that the Vortex is on the back. Now, if you're using a magnifier and you have it behind your optic and you're using the magnifier, it's going to be harder to get to the buttons here, which points go to the Eotech on that because you can reach to the side and change your brightness settings. But when it comes to not having a magnifier on there, it's much easier to be able to change your brightness settings with this UH-1 optic. Now we go to looking at it from the front. Obviously, if you're looking at it from the front, you're at the wrong end of it. But Eotech has a slight red glow to it, and I will roll in footage here. The point is, if you're pointing it at your target, it is going to glow red and people can see it, giving off your position. This all happens at night or in a dark room, during the day, doesn't matter, they can obviously see you anyways. The reason that the hood on the UH-1 goes even farther forward than the Eotech is because it gives it a little bit more protection. It gives the glass a little bit more protection. There are also pieces of glass at each end which are extra protection, and they will make it to where if they break, the holographic sight still works. Now, if your glass breaks on your Eotech, the holographic sight will still work as well, but this just gives it a little bit more protection. The co-witness on this holographic sight is lower 1/3. That is just like the EXPS 3 Tac 0. The only thing that makes the EXPS 3 Tac 0 a little bit better is you can get the other versions of the Eotech holographic sight that are lower. That's if you want to have an absolute co-witness. Otherwise, they're both lower 1/3 co-witness. Now, you don't have the option like microdots to be able to raise it or lower it with just a single mount. You'll have to get a riser to put under here. For zeroing this holographic sight, the right and left is actually built into the base here. So when you're moving it, your reticle right and left, it's actually moving your whole optic, not just the dot inside there, it's moving the entire optic. Now Grand Thumb in his video said that up and down is also built into the base, but when I looked at Vortex's YouTube channel and their website, I didn't see, all they talked about was right and left being built into the base. I could be completely wrong, but I haven't seen anywhere where it says that the up and down is built into the base. If it is, cool. Doesn't bother me as long as it gets zeroed. And it's kind of like the L-can, if it's that way. When you're turning on your optics, With the Eotech, if you push down on it, it is 4 hours it stays on, and if you push up on it, it is 8 hours. And every time you push one of those buttons, the time starts over, depending on which button you push. Now with UH-1, no matter what button you push, when you turn it on, it is 14 hours that it stays on. Now some people are like, I don't like that it stays on for 14 hours. I want it to stay on for however long I have it on. Well, unless you're in a sustained gunfight for 14 hours, that's not going to be a big deal. Also, every time you push the button, the time starts over. So if you're going to be out for that long, guess what? I'm pretty sure that you've pushed the button. Yes, I know Grantham has said this, but I was going to say this as well. So no, I'm not stealing shit. Now to the price of this holographic optic. This holographic optic from Vortex, the Vortex AMG UH-1 Gen 2 Huey, is $7.99 MSRP. I've seen it for $4.99 all over the place, and that's what I'm basically seeing now. And I was kind of lucky because at my local Ace Hardware, yes, I said Ace Hardware, it was only $450. So I kind of lucked out when I found it. The Eotech EXPS 3 Tag 0 is anywhere from $650 to $690 what I've seen online. UH-1's price is going to be better obviously right now, but according to their MSRP, I can see the prices going up, especially when they start getting on the market more and people start liking them and they start getting sold more. It's supply and demand. They get sold more, they're going to raise the prices. And especially with what's going on now, I've already seen the prices going up because I bought it for $450. I believe when I was looking at it and I bought it, I could get it online for $420. So this is already going up in price. Overall, this is a very good holographic sight. Some people don't like the way that it looks, but I think it looks fucking sexy personally. It's just a little bit longer, but I mean, that's not a big deal because it's 0.2 ounces less than the Eotech. So when it comes to weight, it's not a big deal. What I think it really comes down to is how much money do you want to spend and which reticle do you want. The reticle in the UH-1 is newer. The reticle in the Eotech has been used forever since they came out. So I give points to the Eotech. I personally like using the Eotech better because of the way that it looks, but the Vortex you cannot go wrong with. It's a great optic. Eotech has obviously got military contracts. Yes, some people will come out and say, oh yeah, but they're thermal drift. Guess what? They fucking fixed it and they've got contracts back. So to that guy at Cabela's that said, Eotech doesn't even have a contract with the military anymore. You're fucking stupid. Yes, they do. Also, when I said, when it comes down to how much you want to pay, right now, which I previously stated in the video, the Vortex is cheaper. That could completely change over time. So as of now, Vortex is cheaper, so it comes down to what price do you want to pay, what reticle do you want, and Eotech has been out there longer with holographic sights. But I've seen people beating this around. I've dropped this a couple times, not very high, but I've dropped it from like a foot, 2 feet. It held zero, nothing happened to it. So it's very, very robust, and I believe that given time, the Vortex will show that it's just as good as the Eotech. Anyways, Navysooner out.